Good morning, students. Today we will continue the final part of the lesson Trade in Ancient India, written by Radha Kumun. During the early Vedic period, the currency that which was in circulation in our country was known as Nishka, and this Nishka gold was made of the gold metal. It was a gold coin. There were also other coins, and this weight of the gold coin was 32 rattis, that is one third of the tola. And later we have a reference to another gold coin known as Suvarna, equal to 80 rattis. There was also a silver coin known as Purana of 32 rattis. Karshpana, it was mentioned by Panini, the famous Indian Vedic scholar of our country, and was the name of the gold coin that was minted in that part of the age was known as Karshpana. During the Mauryan period, we come across punched marked coins. These coins were small pieces of flat silver and copper, which were punched with symbols. The officer or the superintendent of the mint was known as Laksanya Daksha, and an officer to check the purity of the minted coins and to verify the weight of the coins and to decide whether the coin was original or the fake one. The officer was appointed known as Rupadarsaka. In South India, we come across gold coins like Varaha, circulated during the Badami Chalukya period. Kasu, circulated during the Chola rule, and Pagoda was the name of the coin which was in circulation during the Vijayanagara period. The weights of the coins were based on the system laid down in Manu Samhita, and its unit was the Rati or Gunja berry, weighing approximately 1.83 grains or 0.118 grams. The Rig Veda contains several references to sea voyages undertaken for commercial and other purposes. Later, when urban culture flourished in cities like Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, India had established trade and commercial relationship with Sumer, Egypt, and Crete. Lothal in Gujarat was one of the biggest port of the town of that period, with a huge dockyard constructed out of a brick. In the Old Testament of the Bible, there is a reference to, we have a reference to trade between India and Syrian coast, and it dates back to 1400 BC. And according to the Bible book of Chronicles of the Jews, during the rule of King Solomon, a navy equipped by Hiram, king of Tyre, undertook a voyage to the eastern countries and brought back with it gold, silver, ivory, apes, peacocks, almug trees, jewels, and precious stones. Opir was the port at which they loaded these goods in the ships, and this Opir have been identified with the port Abir or Sopara on the western coast of India. To guide ships to ports, lighthouses were built. One such lighthouse existed at the mouth of river Kaveri, built either of brick and mortar or a big palmyra trunk, carrying on the top of it a huge oil lamp. The traditional trading class in India was the Vaishyas. Later, we find this profession being followed by Parsis, Banias, and Marwaris in Bombay Presidency, the Lingaites in Karnataka region, Shettis and Komatis in the Madras Presidency, Khatris in Punjab, and Marwaris in Bengal and Assam. The Vaishya community was the richest being of the business class and was represented in district councils. This class contributed much to the cultural progress of the country. Some of them excavated caves and built temples, while others were well versed in folklore and astrology. Throughout ages, India occupied a unique position in the commercial world as one of the main suppliers of the world's luxuries. Hence, she throughout had the balance of trade clearly in her favor, a balance which could only be settled by export of precious metals to European and other countries which purchased her goods. Thus, India has been for many centuries the final depository of a large portion of the metallic wealth of the world. India obtained gold not as did Europe from America in 16th century by conquest or rapine, but by more natural and peaceful method of commerce, by the exchange of such of her production which were highly prized by nations of West Asia, Egypt, and Europe, and which they could not have obtained from other places except India. So, students, in this lesson, we have learned that how progressive and prosperous was trade in ancient India. Ancient Indians were nowhere laggards with respect to their counterparts, Europeans and other nations. There was peace and prosperity in the community. So, with this, we end this lesson. Thank you.